Happiness is not a feeling, but a higher nature. If you can feel happy, you can feel unhappy. You already have a great clue to work with to abolish your belief that happiness can come through what you feel. And one reason you want to believe that happiness is a feeling is because you can do certain things to induce feelings of all kinds. And in back of that is a terrible fact, which is this. Because you can manipulate people and events, you can cause things to happen by being bad, for example, by being angry. You can cause other people to be as angry as you are or as depressed as you are. And then you can say, see, I'm a creator. I can cause my own feelings to happen anytime I want, which of course neurosis can always do. But happiness is not a feeling. It is not an internal, fast or slow experience. Happiness is the absence of your belief that happiness is a feeling. Now, the other part of it, since you can't be a pleasant, calm, in-charge person with a flood of feelings, then it's obvious that peace of mind, self-command has to be something else other than that. And what it is a new nature. And what's a new nature? The absence of the old nature. So that's what you have to study. You have to see that imposture called emotionalism, called excitement, called hope. The imposture is all of those. You have to see how you keep yourself in a state of what you call happiness or expecting to be when something happens. You have to know that you're in a wrong state, a negative state, which gives you the familiar false feeling of life. Now let's look at that just a little bit. A false feeling of life is any feeling that you latch onto and call it an identity. I get so mad when he says that. I get so fed up with the routine of my office work down there. I get really excited when I hear about that trip that I can take at a reduced rate around the world. I get so excited when I hear that news. A false feeling of life is the only life, and the false one at that people have. Now, the question is, are you going to have the courage to recognize that you are just one of the mob? Yes, you are. One of the gang who's always going to get ahead of someone else and get the feeling from it. You're not different, and this is the point I want to emphasize. You're not different from the person sitting next to you or the neighbor living next to you. You're not really different. And that's very, very sad. It is really sad to be commonplace because you don't have to be. You can have the unique nature which does not depend on feelings. Everybody thinks they're unique when they really have their own special brand of neurosis and sickness. That's not being unique. That's one of the crowd. That's one of the herd. Herd thinking, herd reacting, herd faking. Now, the new nature that we're going to talk about does not have to depend on feeling at all. Not the ordinary excitement and emotionalism and spurts of passion that you feel. It has, this is important to remember, your real life doesn't have dependency on feeling. You do as you are now, and it's a false dependency. False, that's just the beginning of how awful it is. It drives you crazy. You always have to have more and more. And I'm going to tell you something you don't know about yourself. You are worried lest you run out of feelings and therefore run out of life. You are afraid. I'm revealing something to you now. You're afraid that something is going to happen that is going to cause you to cease to exist. You're worried that if you don't run out and spend money madly, if you don't have ambitions, if you don't get mad every minute, you're afraid that something is going to slow down, eventually come to a stop, and you're worried that you're not going to be here anymore. I want you to take out of here tonight memory and knowledge of what I just said. Now I have to tell you, you have so much to absorb. Try to get as much as you can. This mad passion for accumulating feelings, experiences, things to think about, to be concerned about. This is really your non-life, non-existence. You have it exactly backward. You do not have real existence. You have only a mechanical, boring flow of re-experiences. All you have is a habitual running around of yourself, of your habitual self. All you have, and you sense what I'm saying. Don't just hear it, but sense the truth of it. It will help you. All you have is the same moving picture played over and over again. You've seen one of your favorite repetitious movies on television. You know exactly what's going to happen, don't you? Same movie. The same outcome. The hero's going to jump off the cliff and rescue the pretty girl or whatever. You know exactly what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen to you 5 seconds from now and 5 days from now. You know what's going to happen, and you insist that it's going to happen. You're worried that it won't happen. You know the script. You've sat in front of your own movie all your life. You should know what you're going to do because you always do the same thing. You are, unfortunately, you're incapable of behaving with originality. You sit and watch the movie on television, and you feel bored because there's nothing new. The same way with your life. That's what your boredom is. But here's the worst part. Even boredom becomes a false feeling of life, and you settle for that. The same old dreariness at the home, at the going to work, at the office. Nothing changes, all the same. I know what I'm going to say. I know what they're going to say. I know what I'm going to feel. You have sworn allegiance to your boredom and non-life. Now, I am telling you this because I know you, and I know that you don't know yourself, and I know that you don't understand with a spiritual mind what I just explained to you. I know that you don't know that you have sworn a pact with your old nature, with your feelings masquerading as happiness. I know that you don't know that you have settled down. Now, you have this information. That is not enough. You're not going to change by having the information. Because it's too pleasantly unpleasant for you to doze through your day. When you know the movie and everything that's going to happen, nothing is required of you. You don't have to do any work. You can daydream and night dream. And you can fake and you can pretend. You can imagine yourself with the men, you imagine yourself with a pretty girl. And you girls imagine yourself with a handsome man. Oh, you can take 1,000 excursions in your imagination and in your beliefs. And now is the time for you to break your allegiance to your painful, repetitious movie life. Now is the time for you to know that that is the only thing you are doing. You have turned yourself over to your mechanical self inside, including your feelings, your thoughts. You have turned yourself over, and you never will take the responsibility for seeing that this is why you are an unhappy, pained human being. The reason you are a weakling is because you don't want to go to work. Don't you ask that of me. Go away and let me dream. That you can do. And again, I must tell you, when you exit this world, you will exit in just one of two ways. You slow down in your thinking and think about what I'm going to tell you. You will exit this world one of two ways. The way you are right now, tonight, in this room, or you will exit it with a new nature that you don't now have. See? Everything I say in the talk, everything you react to and with, all your reactions should be centered around you allowing this evening here in this room, allowing the talk and the atmosphere to be an alarm clock to wake you up. You are asleep and you don't know it. And the reason you don't know it is because you argue. You know more than truth itself, and you argue and say, don't tell me I'm asleep. How can a sleeping human being have all the exciting adventures I have? And they're not just imaginary either. I go boating twice a week down there, and I've got some exciting financial plans I'm going to get going. I've got a lot of things to do, and I have a lot of satisfactory, happy memories, and I got a lot of things that I'm going to do in the next 2 weeks. Who said you're going to do a lot of exciting things in the next 2 weeks? Only you did. And when you said that, you hated You despised the contradictory voice that comes up inside of you and said, you said so, not me. I'm talking about the voice of conscience, which is so deeply buried I barely can use the word. I'm telling you that your assumptions about your life are murdering you. They're preventing you from having life. But they're sure adding something else to that, which is allowing you to be a weary wanderer. And you are that, aren't you? You know what it means to be a wanderer? You see how many of your friends, they can't stay settled in one house or one town very long. They always have to be moving somewhere. The bum down at Skid Row, wandering from one Salvation Army center to the next. The people who are always going somewhere. They can't stay home. I tell you, as you get mentally healthy, spiritually healthy, you'll stay home 10 times as much as you now do. You know the answer to that, don't you? You don't have any place to go. You're home, the wanderer. And the trouble with being a wanderer is that you don't have, think about this, you don't have any interests of your own. You have to go out and find them. Even the shopping becomes an adventure to you. Yes, that shopping list and going down, parking your car, going in there. It gives you something to do. It gives you something to feel. You can always find plenty of feelings. I pointed out earlier, a lot of things to feel about just to go into the supermarket. Maybe see people you don't like, people you think that are your friends, and compare the prices. And wonder whether the lettuce is fresh or not, and why don't they sprinkle a little more water on it every morning? You've always got something to think about. I dare you. I challenge you, I invite you to find a world where you can just be at home with yourself all the time and you don't have to be out shopping or doing anything else. I said, you don't have any interests of your own, and you don't. You know whose interests you have? You know that. Mamas, papas. You belong to that political party because Papa did, or you ignore all parties because Papa did. You've got all interests except the one that could save you. You've stolen some of them too. I want you to notice that. You can notice it right in this room. I'm not criticizing, but pointing something out. Notice how if a certain phrase is said, even in my talk, for example, for the next week, half a dozen people will say the same phrase, and they won't even know they're doing that. You watch that from now on. We even had to stop one of them. What was it? Totally. Even I have to watch not saying totally anymore. You know what I substituted? Altogether. Pretty soon we'll be hearing all together. I'm making a point. You don't have anything of your own. Now look, we have to use words, and I have to explain things to you. To have something of your own means that you have first lost everything of your own. That is, what was borrowed and stolen and hoarded from other people and from experiences, memories, for example. To have something of your own means to live from the higher nature. That is altogether satisfying. Now, if you're not satisfied with your life, what does that mean? That means that you're smarter than truth. That you of yourself can figure out a way to get rid of the ache, the heartache, and the throbs. You know how to do it. And then you, quote mark, prove it to yourself that you do have something of your own. That you do know what to do in every situation. Now look, simplest little situation. Buying something, we're back in the supermarket. Buying a sack full of groceries. When you buy that sack full of groceries, you can have any feelings you want. You like that, you don't like that, you're critical of that. And then you can say, I do have a life of my own because I just proved it, because just over that one sack of groceries, I had 20 different emotional reactions. And at the check stand too. I didn't like quite the way the lady looked at me, the checker girl looked at me. And when they put it over there's a sound thing and it didn't go off, and she had to do it 10 times to finally get it. Supermarket's a great place to buy food. Now look, the time has come, make it right now, where you will sacrifice your stupid pride, which has nothing in back of it but delusions. You will sacrifice your idiotic vanity, which always says, I have life because I have experiences. Now, this is difficult. I tell you that you don't have real life. Now, I know very well that doesn't mean anything to you. Because all you know is contrived life, false interest, borrowed interest. I know that you don't know what I'm talking about when I tell you that real happiness is to live from your higher, authentic nature. You don't know what that means. And there's only one way for you to know what it means. There's not two ways. And to get very specific on what you have to do this. Right in the middle of your belief, your idiotic belief, that an experience gives identity, right in the middle of that exciting feeling of getting back at someone, at scoring the victory over someone, of getting the bonus down at the office, right in the middle of that is the one and only chance that a human being has to enter the kingdom of heaven, which is to sacrifice the feeling, no longer believe in it, to let it go, which is going to shake you like you've never, ever been shaken before, but you are willing to go through it. You are willing to allow your violence and your vanity and your belief in yourself and your false feelings. You are willing to no longer let them continue and come to a stop of themselves to be replaced by the next false feeling. You are willing right at the height of the enormous pleasure of getting the applause or of being hated, the pleasure of being hated, both sides. Right in the middle of that, you are willing to let go of yourself. Won't happen the first time. Won't happen the 10th time. It's going to take you a long time to get the theory. You've got the information. It's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of practice I'm telling you, I'm giving you step by step. Because you always think that you can do it tomorrow. What you're going to have to do is right in the middle of the supreme, false, malicious pleasure of feeling your existence, right at the peak of the pleasure of the revenge feeling, I got back at him. Right in the middle of that, you remember everything you've ever been taught, and you agree that the only way to let go is to let go. You understand that now is the opportunity. This is it. All your life, you have done absolutely nothing but enjoy the ridiculous, stupid, childish pleasure of feeling that you're winning, that you're existing, that you have something to live for. You don't have anything to live for. How can what you have be worth anything at all when you have to painfully and angrily and viciously try to keep it in place? Peace, P-A-C-E, is entirely too much for the average human being. It is an enormous enemy to be destroyed if possible. Quietness is the foe to hate. Normality, whatever is normal, innocent and good, that's the enemy of the average human being. It must become your friend. Oh, don't think so fast. Don't you tell me, in reply to what I just said, that you want peace of mind. If you wanted it, you would have it. If you really wanted self-command, you would have self-command. You don't want them. Why? You haven't reached the point, the breakthrough, that's a good word, the breakthrough point where you're able to allow everything you value, treasure, cherish, cling to. You're not at the point where you are able to just let it go and face the dark unknown in front of you. You called it the dark unknown. I didn't, and I don't. Because it's the opposite of that. It's the light, but you don't know that. Therefore, you call anything outside of your life, outside of your habits, your experiences, your preferences, you call that, anything outside of you, call that the enemy, something to push away. Why? Because you've got a false treasure in the way you now live, and you treasure the false. Question at this point, will you want to understand what I've told you tonight? That's the secret. That's the beginning of the breakthrough. Will you agree to understand with everything you have inside you what I'm talking about? That's it. Because if you don't want to understand, you won't. You'll push it away. And oh, the sadness that will accompany you when you go out of here, if you've decided to be for your false nature and against your true nature. I said, you're going to be sad. Now, boy, I can help you by explaining how bad off you are. The sadness, which will always be accompanied by hostility. Sadness and hostility are brothers, emotional brothers. The sadness that you feel at having rejected salvation, the sadness becomes your salvation. And you are sunk again. You did it again. Because you didn't understand and didn't want to understand what was happening. And what was happening, I explained it in the first 5 minutes of the talk. I explained that you always have an enormous resource of false feelings, which you call happiness, which you call fulfillment, which you call power, which you call success. You always have them on hand. And even the sadness that you feel at rejecting truth, that sadness is one of the resources that you have that keep you as you are. Oh, this is a mountaintop statement. Listen to it. Please be willing to simply, and it is simple if you do it, will you please simply drop every ounce of sadness that you have. I want to substitute the word grief, sorrow, defeat, depression, gloom. Let's do it again. I instruct you, all of you, to do something right for yourself. Something that it is possible for you to do and to do right now. I instruct you to trying is good, got to start, to try to understand what it means to not be sad and defeated. Try to understand what it means to drop your present sadness. And watch how you argue. You don't want to do it. You're worried. I explained that a minute ago too. I explained that you're afraid that when this next sad situation comes up and you don't react sadly to it, you're afraid that somehow you won't be there. Well, now you should know the answer to that by this time. That's true, and that's the objective of these classes, for the sad you to not be there. The suppressed you to not be there. The jealous you to not be. That's the class purpose, to enable you to see that you really don't have to be you. I tell you, and you won't do it. Now you do it. Instead of evaporating, you will appear. But not the evaporated you in a new coat. A new you means a new you, which I know there's no way you can understand what I said. The way you can understand it, though, because when you're all gone, all washed up, all through, that means you've gone through the spiritual experience for which you was put here on earth. And then you will sit back and wonder how you could have been so thick-headed. how you could have ever believed that hostility is a good and necessary thing. Now look, I'm going to make a simple statement to you. Arguing and hostility are never necessary. Never under any conditions is argument, antagonism, and hostility ever necessary. You do not need them. Never. And never did and never will. Got it? All right. Now, if you get hostile and antagonistic tomorrow or an hour from now, when they change the TV program on you, you were all ready for what you wanted. You remember that you have simply played your favorite film again, your section of the film. And you did that because you were afraid to toss the film out, either section or a whole. You're afraid to toss it out because then you wouldn't have anyone to watch. You know, you identify with the hero or heroine in the movie, don't you? You're the hard-boiled detective or the lovely mystery lady in black comes into the detective's office, right? We're back again to where you're concerned lest you lose your way by losing your identity. See, you think you know who you are. Not really. You don't. See, you really don't know who you are. You know who you are not. You're not the detective in the film, or you're not the lovely lady who walks through the door. But you fight the truth right while it's going on right now. You fight it because you have not explored and absorbed sufficiently one fact that I'll give you again, which is this. The absence of your old life, foolish feelings, the absence of that does not mean the absence of your existence. It means the absence of non-existence, which you believe in and think is identity and existence. One way to find out, and I gave it to you, and I tell you, you absolutely must go through it. Decide to do so. And I'll give it to you one more time. When the meeting is over, you're immediately going to go back altogether to your old nature. I've taken you out of it for a little bit, suspended it, so to speak, during this talk. But you're careless and you fall asleep when you walk out the door. What you're going to do is be very watchful of your emotional reactions, experiences, when you walk out the door. And you're going to notice, what could it be? Someone who drove in front of you or something, driving the car, or a memory came up, some disappointment, something that caused you to flare up. You're to notice that you get a false pleasure out of that negative, useless emotional explosion. You're to notice that you get a pleasure out of it, the pleasure being based in your belief that you will vanish if you don't feel it. How many times can I say it over? I'll say it 1,000 times if necessary, and here it goes again. If you come to yourself and come to your senses in the middle of that feeling of antagonism toward the driver who cut in front of you, if you will come to yourself and know that you're angry, once you know you're hostile, you can then go from that knowing to the next knowing, which is to know that you've been kidnapped again unnecessarily by dark forces inside of you. Now you can go to the next knowing. Now you can remember the talk tonight. Now you can say, oh, yes, it was explained. I was told to watch my anger when going home. I did. I saw I was angry. And I remember a lot of things, other things that came with that, like it's not necessary. I really don't have to be angry. Oh, I can be alert. I can jerk my car out of the way and things like that. But I said I don't have to be hostile toward that man. I could even honk my horn at him if necessary to stop an accident. But I don't have to be hateful. I don't have to be angry. Oh, well, that's good so far. So far, good. Now you come to the big one. Now you come to the crisis. And you're to remember everything I said when you come to this next stage, which is, I've always got mad. I have always got mad. But if I don't get mad this time and shake my fist at him, if I don't get mad, who's the I? I am my anger. I've got a friend. I can always call on him, and I do 1,000 times a week. I can call on my friends. At the talk, the man said, they are enemies that I never saw as an enemy. They are actually fiends that I never saw as a fiend. But if I give them up, what will become of me? I've told you, every time you spend an hour studying evil, study an hour studying goodness. Every hour you spend studying Satan, spend the next hour studying God, because that's the answer to this puzzling predicament you were in once you bring all this up to spiritual memory. At that moment, God will help you. You have renounced satanic hatred and antagonism. You said no, and then you said, I don't know what's going to happen to me, but I was told that God will catch me if I fall. God will catch you when your false nature falls away. He will catch you, and you will at last know who you really are. Okay, go to work all day, all night on everything you've heard. Good night.